Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has finally spoken out, and the wrestling world is holding its breath. When Jacob Fatu was rushed to the hospital, social media exploded with concern, speculation ran wild, and fans across the globe demanded answers. The silence from WWE's biggest names was deafening until The Rock decided it was time to address what everyone has been whispering about behind closed doors. If you think you know what happened, think again, because what The Rock just revealed changes everything we thought we knew about this situation. Before we dive into the full story, make sure you hit that subscribe button because you won't want to miss a single update on this developing story. Jacob Fatu's hospitalization sent shockwaves through the professional wrestling community in ways nobody saw coming. The Samoan werewolf, as fans know him, has built a reputation as one of the most fearsome competitors in the ring, a man who seems virtually indestructible when he steps between those ropes. His intensity, his power, and his unwavering commitment to delivering brutal matches have made him a standout performer in an industry filled with incredible athletes. When news broke that he had been hospitalized, the wrestling community immediately went into overdrive trying to piece together what could have possibly taken down someone of his caliber and physical conditioning. The timing of Fatu's hospitalization couldn't have been more critical. He was in the middle of what many insiders were calling a career-defining run, with storylines building momentum and his stock rising higher than ever before. Fans had been treated to some of the most physically demanding matches of the year, and Fatu had been at the center of nearly all of them. His work ethic had become legendary backstage, with reports indicating he was pushing himself harder than ever to cement his legacy and prove he belonged among the elite tier of professional wrestlers. The physical toll of maintaining that level of performance week after week is something most people can't even begin to comprehend. Initial reports about the hospitalization were frustratingly vague, which only fueled more speculation and concern among fans and fellow wrestlers alike. Social media became a battleground of rumors, with every wrestling news outlet scrambling to get verified information about Fatu's condition. Some reports suggested it was related to the physical demands of recent matches, while others hinted at something more serious that had nothing to do with in-ring action. The lack of official statements from WWE or Fatu's representatives created a vacuum that gossip and unverified claims rushed to fill, making it nearly impossible to separate fact from fiction. The Rock's relationship with Jacob Fatu goes beyond just being fellow performers or even distant relatives within the extended Anoa'i wrestling dynasty. There's a bond there that runs deep, forged through shared heritage, mutual respect, and an understanding of what it means to carry the weight of family expectations in an industry that never stops watching. The Rock has always maintained connections to his Samoan roots and the wrestling family that helped shape him into the global superstar he became. When someone from that family circle faces a crisis, it's not just professional concern but something far more personal that drives The Rock's response. Dwayne Johnson's decision to break his silence came after days of mounting pressure from fans who wanted to hear from someone they trusted to give them the truth. The Rock doesn't typically involve himself in day-to-day wrestling drama anymore, having built an empire in Hollywood that keeps him perpetually busy with film projects, business ventures, and his various entrepreneurial endeavors. For him to take time out of that schedule to address Jacob Fatu's situation spoke volumes about how serious he considered the matter and how much he felt the need to set the record straight on what actually happened. The statement The Rock released was measured but emotional, showing a side of him that fans don't always get to see behind the larger-than-life persona. He started by acknowledging the concern that fans had shown, recognizing that the wrestling community is truly a family that rallies around its own when times get tough. He spoke about Jacob Fatu with genuine admiration, calling him not just a tremendous talent but someone who represents everything right about the wrestling business. The respect in his words was unmistakable, and it was clear that this wasn't just a public relations statement but something that came from a deeply personal place. According to The Rock's account, Jacob Fatu had been dealing with a medical issue that had been developing over time but had reached a critical point that required immediate medical intervention. He emphasized that it wasn't the result of a single match or incident but rather a combination of factors that included the relentless schedule, the physical demands placed on modern wrestlers, and perhaps some underlying health concerns that hadn't been properly addressed until they couldn't be ignored any longer. The Rock made it clear that Fatu had tried to push through because that's what wrestlers do. They endure pain and discomfort in the name of entertaining fans and honoring their commitments. The revelation that Fatu had been working through significant health challenges added another layer to the story that fans hadn't fully appreciated. Professional wrestlers operate in a unique space where showing weakness or admitting to injury can be seen as a liability, potentially costing them opportunities or momentum in their careers. The culture of toughness that permeates professional wrestling, while admirable in many ways, can also lead to situations where performers push themselves past reasonable limits. The Rock acknowledged this reality in his statement, suggesting that the industry as a whole needs to have serious conversations about how it supports its talent and ensures their long-term health and well-being. The Rock also addressed the medical team that responded to Fatu's situation, praising their quick action and professional care. He detailed how the hospitalization, while scary for everyone involved, was ultimately the right call that may have prevented something far more serious from developing. The medical professionals were able to stabilize Fatu and begin treatment for whatever condition had brought him to that critical point. The Rock's words carried a tone of relief mixed with continued concern, making it clear that while the immediate danger had passed, the road ahead would require careful management and proper recovery time. Family support became a central theme in The Rock's message about Jacob Fatu's hospitalization. He spoke about how the Inoue family had come together in this difficult time, providing the kind of support system that only people who truly understand the wrestling business can offer. The extended family network that has produced so many legendary wrestlers over multiple generations understands better than anyone the unique pressures and challenges that come with his career. The Rock emphasized that Fatu wasn't facing this situation alone, that he had people around him who would make sure he got the care and support he needed not just to recover but to come back stronger when the time was right. The wrestling community's response to The Rock's statement was immediate and overwhelming. Fellow wrestlers from various promotions shared messages of support for Jacob Fatu, many of them revealing their own experiences with pushing through health issues or dealing with the aftermath of ignoring warning signs their bodies were giving them. The conversation expanded beyond just Fatu's specific situation to become a broader discussion about wrestler health, the sustainability of modern wrestling schedules, and what promotions can do to better protect their talent. The Rock's willingness to speak openly about these issues gave others permission to share their own stories and perspectives. WWE's official response following The Rock's statement was to confirm that Jacob Fatu was receiving excellent medical care and that the company was fully supporting him through his recovery process. They emphasized their commitment to talent health and safety, pointing to various programs and resources they have in place to monitor and support wrestler well-being. The company also indicated that Fatu would be given whatever time he needed to fully recover before any discussions about his return to active competition would take place. This stance, while expected, helped reassure fans that the priority was on Fatu's health rather than rushing him back for storyline purposes. The impact of Fatu's absence on current WWE programming became an immediate concern for both creative teams and fans invested in ongoing storylines. Jacob Fatu had been positioned as a crucial part of several major angles, and his sudden hospitalization left gaps that needed to be addressed. The Rock's statement included acknowledgement of this reality but firmly stated that creative considerations had to take a backseat to health concerns. He suggested that the best storytelling in wrestling comes from real emotion and genuine situations, and that Fatu's eventual return, whenever it happened, would carry more weight and meaning because of what he had overcome. Details about Fatu's specific medical condition remained somewhat private, which The Rock defended as being Fatu's right to control his own medical information. He did provide enough context for fans to understand the seriousness of the situation without violating Fatu's privacy or turning his health crisis into tabloid fodder. This balance between transparency and discretion was handled with care, showing The Rock's experience in dealing with public scrutiny while maintaining respect for personal boundaries. The wrestling community largely appreciated this approach, understanding that they didn't need every detail to offer their support and well wishes. The physical demands placed on modern professional wrestlers have increased dramatically over the years, with performers expected to deliver increasingly athletic and dangerous moves to satisfy audience expectations shaped by decades of escalating spectacle. Jacob Fatu's style in particular is incredibly physically taxing, involving high-impact moves, intense physicality, and a pace that would challenge even the most conditioned athletes. The Rock referenced this evolution in wrestling when discussing Fatu's situation, noting that while the business has always been tough on the body, the current generation faces unique challenges that require new approaches to health management and injury prevention. The Rock shared his own experiences with wrestling injuries and health scares during his career, creating a personal connection to what Fatu was going through. He spoke about times when he had pushed himself too hard, ignored warning signs, and paid the price with injuries that could have been prevented with better self-care and medical oversight. These revelations added depth to his statement, showing that his concern for Fatu came from a place of understanding rather than judgment. He acknowledged that the drive to perform, to not let down fans or miss opportunities, can override rational decision-making about health, something nearly every wrestler has experienced at some point. Fan reactions to The Rock's statement ranged from relief at finally having information to emotional responses about their own connections to Jacob Fatu as a performer. Many fans shared stories of how Fatu's matches had inspired them, how his presence had elevated their enjoyment of wrestling, and how they were willing to wait as long as necessary for him to return healthy and ready. This outpouring of support demonstrated the genuine connection that wrestlers can build with their audience, transcending the scripted nature of professional wrestling to create real emotional investment in the performers themselves. The Rock made a point to address younger wrestlers and those aspiring to break into the business, using Fatu's situation as a teaching moment about the importance of listening to your body and prioritizing long-term health over short-term gains. He emphasized that a career in professional wrestling should be measured in decades, not years, and that taking care of yourself is what makes those long careers possible. This mentorship aspect of his statement resonated with many in the wrestling community who saw it as valuable guidance from someone who had successfully navigated a long wrestling career while maintaining his health well enough to transition into an equally demanding film career. Social media exploded with tributes to Jacob Fatu following The Rock's statement, with hashtags supporting his recovery trending worldwide. Fans created artwork, video packages, and written tributes celebrating Fatu's career and expressing their hopes for his swift recovery. This digital groundswell of support became its own news story, demonstrating the power of wrestling fandom when unified around a common cause. The Rock himself acknowledged this support, sharing several fan creations and emphasizing how much positive energy like this could mean to someone going through a difficult recovery process. The question of when Jacob Fatu might return to action became a frequent topic of discussion, though The Rock was careful not to provide any specific timeline or create unrealistic expectations. He stressed that recovery from serious health issues isn't linear and that rushing back before being fully ready could lead to brain injury or worse. The Rock advocated for patience from fans and the wrestling community, arguing that everyone would rather wait longer and get a fully healthy Jacob Fatu back than see him return prematurely and risk his long-term health and career. This perspective, while not what eager fans necessarily wanted to hear, was grounded in wisdom earned through experience. Behind the scenes, The Rock reportedly had been in regular contact with both Jacob Fatu and his family, offering support, advice, and resources to aid in the recovery process. These private conversations, while not detailed publicly, were referenced in his statement as part of his ongoing commitment to being there for family and fellow wrestlers when they needed help. The Rock's position in both the wrestling world and the entertainment industry at large gives him unique access to resources and specialists that might not otherwise be available, and sources indicated he had been leveraging those connections to ensure Fatu received the best possible care. The wrestling industry's track record with long-term health outcomes for its performers has been a subject of increasing scrutiny in recent years. The Rock's statement touched on this broader issue without making it the central focus, but his words carried implicit criticism of how the business has historically treated its talent as disposable rather than as human beings with finite physical capacities. His call for better systems, more comprehensive health monitoring, and a culture that prioritizes recovery over constant availability represented a challenge to promotions to evolve their practices and truly put wrestler health first. Jacob Fatu's hospitalization also sparked discussions about the support systems available to wrestlers both within and outside of major promotions. Independent wrestlers often lack the medical resources and safety nets that come with working for larger companies, making situations like Fatu's potentially even more dangerous for those working at other levels of the business. The Rock's statement included acknowledgement of this disparity and calls for the entire wrestling industry to find ways to better protect all performers regardless of where they work. This expansion of the conversation beyond just one person's health crisis to systemic issues affecting the entire industry showed thoughtful leadership on The Rock's part. The emotional toll of serious health scares extends beyond just the person directly affected to their family, friends, and colleagues who care about them. The Rock spoke to this aspect of Fatu's hospitalization, acknowledging the fear and uncertainty that everyone close to the situation had experienced. He praised Fatu's family for their strength and presence during this difficult time, noting that having that support system makes an enormous difference in recovery outcomes. The human element of his statement, the recognition that wrestlers are people with lives and loved ones beyond their in-ring personas, added depth and authenticity to his words. As more details emerged in the days following The Rock's statement, it became clear that Jacob Fatu's medical team was optimistic about his recovery prospects but cautious about making specific predictions. The focus remained on ensuring proper healing and addressing the underlying issues that had led to the hospitalization in the first place. The Rock continued to provide occasional updates through his social media channels, keeping fans informed without overwhelming them with constant medical bulletins. This balanced approach to information sharing helped maintain interest and support while respecting Fatu's privacy during a vulnerable time. The wrestling industry has seen too many cautionary tales of performers whose health was compromised by the demands of the business, making Jacob Fatu's situation feel particularly urgent to many observers. The Rock's statement carried weight precisely because it came from someone who had successfully navigated those same pressures and emerged with his health intact and a thriving post-wrestling career. His advocacy for Fatu and for better health practices industry-wide came from a place of credibility that few others could match. The hope expressed by many was that this incident would serve as a catalyst for meaningful change rather than just another forgotten health scare once the news cycle moved on. The Rock concluded his statement with a message directly to Jacob Fatu, expressing confidence in his resilience and strength not just as a wrestler but as a person. He reminded Fatu that taking the time to heal properly wasn't weakness but wisdom, and that his best matches and biggest moments were still ahead of him if he committed to doing recovery right. These words, while public, carried the tone of a private conversation between family members who understand each other's struggles. The closing message was one of hope, determination, and unwavering support for someone facing a challenging road ahead but not traveling it alone. The wrestling world continues to watch and wait for updates on Jacob Fatu's recovery, united in hoping for the best possible outcome. The Rock's decision to break his silence and address the situation head-on provided the clarity and leadership that the moment demanded. His words reminded everyone involved with professional wrestling, from performers to promoters to fans, that the health and well-being of the people who entertain us must always come first, no matter what storylines are interrupted or plans have to change. If this situation leads to lasting positive changes in how the wrestling industry treats its talent, then something meaningful will have emerged from a frightening moment. Make sure to subscribe to stay updated on Jacob Fatu's recovery journey and for all the latest developments in the wrestling world as this story continues to unfold.